All right, please be joined by Isaac Simmons. He's going to be a senior coming up here at Liberty University. Just played in the U.S. Open this summer. A lot going on. Isaac, what's happening? How are you, man?
How are you, Garrett?
I'm good. I'm good. So a little bit of a busy summer. I mean, you get to your first U.S. Open, LACC. I mean, what do you take away from that experience?
Yeah, it was obviously a really cool experience. A lot of people have kind of asked me to summarize that, and I think the best way to really put it into words is just you can't replicate that experience. You can play high level amateur tournaments, you can play high level collegiate tournaments, you can meet these guys like on the sidelines, but when you're actually playing with some of the best players in the world, obviously at the U.S. Open, which in my opinion is probably the biggest golf tournament, maybe besides the Masters. Like I would rank that number two in all of golf. Yeah, you can't replicate that. There's no real way to prepare for what you're gonna feel and what you're gonna face the first time. So it was just awesome to be out there and like just get some of those experiences.
Well, speaking of the best players in the world, I mean, you played some practice rounds with Jon Rahm. I hear you played some time with him. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so on Monday, the first round, it was kind of like a weird thing happened. Um, I don't remember who my original group was supposed to be, but obviously that was not the original group because John and Sergio had a reserved like slot, so it was only those two guys in the group, and there was like a little mix up on the first, and I had actually met John like 10 minutes earlier, and we had just talked for a few minutes, so he had kind of just seen my face, and he invited me to join them on the first tee, which was pretty cool. So yeah, like obviously like him and Sergio, Spaniards, like I don't know what their reputation's like amongst the media or just amongst golf fans, but they're really nice guys. Like honestly, like Sergio is just a super nice guy. And I know he's had some moments in his past that people talk about, but he's a super nice guy and was really insightful. And obviously, John was really nice. He didn't have to invite me to play with him. He didn't have to share tips while we were out there, but he did. And obviously, that was really cool.
And the kind of tips that you're talking about, like, was just like course management, or what kind of help was he giving you?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so not necessarily like how to play this course because no one had ever played this course. So it probably was a little different if we had been at maybe a regular site like or a PGA Tour event where the guys are familiar with the golf course. But just talking about you know how to handle these situations or like maybe like a certain lies like and we're kind of just it's cool like there was a few holes where that rough's really nasty and we would all go behind the green and hit a few chips and just like I would say like I see it here, and then they're saying we see it here, and we would kind of use this club, or like I might try this club, and just like some shots that I wouldn't maybe see off the top of my head. Just trying to maybe how to hit bunker shots when the sand's firm, because the sand I thought the sand was pretty firm out there versus what I'm used to. So they were kind of explaining some of those things, and then also just you know, hey man, like you got to be confident. Like, who cares if there's people out here? Just it doesn't really matter. Just things like that. Things that anyone would tell someone that is competing in that event for the first time. So that was just like reassuring, kind of, to have affirmation from guys like that. They're just saying like, hey, like we like your game. Just make sure you sticking with it and like just work hard and be confident. And then the next day I play with Justin Rose and Charlie Hoffman, and I put Adam Hadwin, yeah, because he had just gotten tackled like the day before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. And then, obviously Justin Rose is like a super nice guy. Like, um, we talked like the whole 9 holes we played. Just he's like a golf nerd. It was pretty funny. I was looking at his clubs. He was checking out mine. I have an M6 three wood, and he's like, "How do you still have one of these?" Like, I've been trying to get one of these.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So he's talking about like painting the top line of his stealth to make it look like an M6 because he likes the silver piece out in front, and it was just funny. And actually hit with him some on the range after the round, and yeah, just like a super nice guy. Like a lot of these guys, are really down to earth. They're not like it's not like they're just an everyday person. They still know
Sure.
like, hey, I'm Jon Rahm, I'm Sergio, I'm Justin Rose. They kind of carry themselves with that. I'm not gonna say ego, but their chest is up, like, hey, like I'm this guy. But when you get to know them and you start to peel back those layers, they're just like everyone else, and they're just out there having fun and enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed with Jon Rahm in the past, like we see there's so much intensity. Like when he won the US Open 2021, he just gets so fired up. But he's the first person to tell you, "Hey, I'm just one of the guys. I'm, when the cameras aren't on, I'm like pretty chill." So, I mean, you spent 10 minutes with him before that tee time. You got to play a practice round with him. Like, did you see a little bit of a kind of a lighter side of John as well?
Yeah, I saw both sides.
Okay,
I saw both
both
sides.
nice,
Now, I'm not gonna say I saw the full like Sunday competitor,
right?
but he hit a few shots that he wasn't happy with, and he didn't get mad, but you could just tell he was just like he hit a bad shot on I want to say number one. He didn't play very well. I mean, obviously, so the first I'll say this first. He does not care at all how he's hitting the ball in the practice round. We were discussing that because me, him, and Sergio actually was hitting everything perfect. I mean, Sergio, but me and Rahm hit a few. Like we all hit some good shots. We both hit some bad shots. Because we're just trying to figure out like what do we want to do on these holes and how do we want to play these holes. And he's like, look, I like could care less how I'm hitting it. So he says that, which I think is funny because then he hits like a bad shot into one, he gets pissed, and then two, I remember our balls were like this far beside each other in the fairway, and so I know we had the exact same shot. That's why I remember this hole. We had the same number. I guess it was like 190 into the wind, balls above the feet, and pins on the front right in the practice round, and he just like rips a 7-iron to like a foot,
Wow.
and just the intensity that he put on that swing after like having a few bad swings on the first hole, just I was like, yeah, he means business. Like he just said he doesn't care how he's hitting it, and then he did that. So, um, but yeah, I would say that off the camera and like kind of in the practice rounds or just in the locker room, he's pretty chill. Um, I saw that interview he did yesterday. He was like, I just want porta potties on the course. Like that's so like I don't know him that well, but just from spending 2 or 3 hours with him, like that's I can see that because he's not the guy that's going to complain about prize money or complain about leagues or he's just not that type of guy. He's very worried about controlling what he can control and just rolling with the punches. And he's not going to be like an outspoken like he's not going to be an outspoken person. He's not going to be a spokesperson for a tour. He's not going to be like an activist. The guys in sports that have tried to do more. He's not that type of person. He's kind of like a Michael Jordan, like I'm here to handle my business and I'm out.
Right.
And you can get that vibe from him for sure, for sure.
Well,
Yeah,
during that week though at the U.S. Open, I think you had your dad Scott caddying for you.
yeah,
What was
yeah,
that like? Just to, just get a chance playing the U.S. Open with dad on the back.
yeah. Obviously, he's been a big part of my career, and yeah, it was just cool. I don't really know how to put it into words. Just yeah, I would say it was pretty cool, and just I think he learned a lot also about just not about my game, but just also how these guys are doing it, and I think it was a cool experience. Um, I think we both got probably a lot more out of it than you would think you would going into it. Um, just he's able to see, okay, how do I handle certain situations, or where are my tendencies in these situations, or and then what are these guys doing? Like firsthand, he kind of talking to maybe some other caddies, like, hey, how do you guys think about these type of holes, or what do you guys do in these types of situations? Um, so yeah, and then obviously he's going to caddy for me in Denver. So I'm hoping that we can kind of just keep improving. And I'm not saying that he's going to continue to caddy for me as I get older, but it's always nice to have a dad that's like knows what's happening and that he's also continuing to learn and get better at doing that because he doesn't have like, he has experience, but he's not a professional caddy. But it
Right.
is nice to have him like gaining these experiences with me. If I ever need him like down the road, like he's there, So it's cool, and I think what I thought was really cool, and this might be a lame answer, but what I thought was really cool is before, I would say Woodmont and before the U.S. Open, he was really kind of reluctant to help me out because I feel like he didn't want to like mess me up or get in the way
Right.
because he has a job, he works, and he knows my golf game. Like we play a lot of golf. He's a big golfer, so we play a lot of golf together. But he doesn't watch me compete a lot because not because he doesn't want to, or not because I don't want him to. It's just that he's got obligations like I have obligations. So I think that he was kind of reluctant to all of a sudden step in competition and be like, hey, I think the wind's hurting here, and I think you need to, go with a 6 iron instead of a 7. He wasn't doing those things, and I think he's gaining confidence and the fact that he can help me, and I think that was a really cool thing to see. Is like now we're going to Denver. It was never a question of am I gonna caddy in the USAM. It was kind of like I'm gonna like we're going type of deal. So you see how that kind of the narrative kind of flipped there. So I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, well, you're speaking of the USAM, you're mentioning Denver, Cherry Hills. It's going to be your first US Amateur. You made it through because you got through with the US Open qualifying. But you have never played any US Amateur before. And you had mentioned last year going to qualifying in 2022, getting a car accident. Like, kind of give us
Yeah,
an idea what happened.
I think it was James River, which is maybe like Newport News area in Virginia. So me and my brother, um, yeah, I got in the car wreck, got rear-ended. It was kind of like it was a little scary. It was kind of like on a highway type of deal, and we didn't get, no one was hurt, luckily.
Whew, okay.
But it was, yeah, that was weird. That happened, and then I didn't. That was maybe in the third week of July, and I didn't play again until the first. Like that kind of ended the summer because I had to deal with that and like kind of threw a wrench in plans and didn't have a car, so I didn't play until like the first college tournament of the year at Duke. So kind of came out. I really think that it was weird that one incident. It was just like a 1 day thing, and I really think I was playing well leading up to that. I think I would have had a great chance to qualify. Um, you never know, but I think I would have had a great chance. And then obviously, um, kind of came out slow to start the college season at Duke. Like had a really bad first round. Played good the last 2 rounds, finished maybe I don't know 30th, but yeah. So that was interesting. And then, like I was telling you a minute ago, 2021 I did a qualifier. I don't even remember where it was or how I did. I have no idea. No memory of that. And then 2020 was COVID, so there was no qualifying. And then 2019, again, I don't know what was happening, but I know I didn't do a qualifier. So I've done one USM qualifier, and now I'm gonna play in one USM. So I guess I'm 1 for 1, even though I didn't even get through in that qualifier.
Yeah. Well, what are your expectations? Like, what are you looking forward to about playing USAM at Cherry Hills?
Yeah, expectations. Um, I just like to play with no expectations. I have goals and I have an idea of what I can do. I just don't want to say like, oh, this would be a failure if this didn't happen. I'm not that type of person. I think I can play well, and I think that I can make a run into match play. I've gotten a little better as a match play player, and I think out there it's just going to be a unique challenge. Really learning the golf courses and at altitude. I've already started to do some research and kind of setting up some people that I can speak with um, that I know that live in the area, whether that's through friends or whether that's through Liberty. Kind of haven't actually connected with anyone yet, but I'm going to do it later this week and just speak with them about the courses. Uh, I've got a packet someone sent me with a lot of data on the courses, like certain lines, like if you hit 300 on this line with a 50-yard dispersion, kind of where does that leave you? And then 330, 360 because of altitude. So I'm kind of learning these courses, and what I'm seeing is that I think even though Cherry Hills is the site, like that's the match play site. I really think Colorado Golf Club, how that round goes there is going to really determine a lot of people's week because that is a completely different looking course. It's kind of a links-ish looking course. It looks really open, fescue, a lot of elevation changes, really kind of big slopey greens. So I think, and it could get windy from what I've heard out there, and get really windy, and the ball goes super far. It's like 9 or 10% at Colorado Golf
Man.
Club. Or at Cherry Hills, it's like 8, 8.5, and I think Colorado Golf Club's another like 600 or 700 feet up. So I really think that that's going to be the difference in the week is if you can get a good round out at Colorado Golf Club. I think that you're going to be able to manage at Cherry Hills, even though Cherry Hills is the championship course, and that's the course that the action's going to happen at, and that's the course with the pedigree. I really think that this year that alternate site course is going to be absolutely huge to the week.
Well, and the U.S. Amateur itself, like, is it an event that you've watched a little bit over the years on TV, or like, do you remember like some of the past champions just watching, like the finish, or?
Yeah, it's obviously last year was awesome, like for a couple reasons. Alex Price, who I'm not, I'm friends with Alex. I don't know him too well, but he's obviously from Virginia, and it was cool to kind of see him make a run to the final eight. I think he lost in the quarterfinals, and then so that kind of had me tuned in a little bit because obviously that's someone I've played golf with, played golf against, and so it's always cool to see someone from your area that you've known for a while just do well. And then obviously the final was awesome. Yeah, like I was rooting for Ben, even though Ben and Sam are both, their stories are you can't really make up two better stories, and it's hard not to pull for both of those guys, right? So that was an awesome final for it to go down to. I'm pretty sure it went down to the last hole. I think Sam won one up in 36 holes, so that's probably the first final that I've watched like most of it. Like most of the TV coverage, I'd probably watch the whole entire final match because it was so compelling. And yeah, you watch that and you just like think this is really cool. That type of format, a 36 hole championship. It's just you and one other guy. I mean, that's pretty cool format.
Yeah, and kind of getting you into kind of your college golf career, talking about that for a minute. You got two conference championships, a couple trips to nationals. There's a lot that you've been to over the last few years. What are a couple of your favorite stories so far from college golf at Liberty?
Let's say probably my favorite story. It's not even a good story. It's a terrible story. But the first term, so I think this was in 2020. I don't even know, man. It's crazy how fast things go by and how all of a sudden you can't remember what year is what year.
Right.
But we're playing. I know it was my first college tournament, and I was actually playing as an individual. And we're in the middle of nowhere in Michigan, and we pull up to this. It's like we're staying at this casino, this like hotel slash casino, whatever. Like, so we do the practice round, we come back and we eat, and we have 36 holes the next day. And I got so sick. This was my first college tournament ever. I got food poisoning. Went the whole 36 holes without eating or drinking anything, and get done with 36. And Coach Thomas, who is the opposite guy ever to believe in anything, like if you're sick, no, like you're not sick. Like he's that type of coach, and he gets us working hard, and there's no excuses. And so he looks at me and goes, "Oh man, you're not looking too good." So he's like, "Hey Jeremy." So Jeremy was our assistant at the time. He's like, "Take this kid to the ER right now." So we went to the hospital. I got some IVs because I was so dehydrated. So that's how I started my first event. The good news is we won as a team, um, with Zach Barbin getting DQ'd in the second round. I don't even know. So I get food poisoning, have to go to the hospital. Zach gets DQ'd, and somehow we win the tournament. So that was my first college tournament ever, and that's something I always like. You can't make that one up. Um, and then okay, so for some better stories, um, I think 2021 regionals we were in Stockton, California regional, and that team was a pretty talented group that year. We had me, Kieran, Vincent, both the Barbans, and then Austin Duncan and Jonathan Yon. So we had a really good group, and we just couldn't, for some reason, all spring it was like a couple guys would play well, and one or two guys would play bad, and so we would have a lot of good individual finishes, but we would just finish like third, fourth, fifth a lot of tournaments. We couldn't win. We just couldn't win. I don't know what was going on. So we go to regionals. I think we were a 7 seed, and we were like eighth and ninth after the first 2 rounds. Um, so we have a great middle of the back nine. I made a couple birdies. John made a couple birdies, and then Austin Duncan makes a hole in one.
Oh man. Okay.
And here's the thing: so he's playing right. He's playing right in front of me, and I have no idea he makes a hole in one because coach is on the tee, sees it goes in, and just is like, no, like, do not celebrate because I don't want anyone to know that you just made a hole in one type of deal. Because I think he's thinking like we have a lot of momentum, and all of a sudden someone makes a hole in one. It might be like, in golf, you get a little too high, you can make some mistakes.
Right.
So yeah, you just like don't let anyone know what just happened. Like don't let anyone know. So the funny thing is, I'm a phone guy when I play, and I got to stop doing that. But I'm a scoreboard looker. It doesn't bother me. Like some people say, oh, it bothers you. I just like to know. I just like to know. I'm a person that I like to know what's going on. So that's like the one round where I wasn't looking because just so much was happening. So we get to eight. I get to 18T, and I'm pretty sure I'm the third guy out that day. So two people have already finished, and it's a dog leg right about 380, kind of a short hole, but there's water. Like it's like a reverse TPC 18 where the water just tiptoes down the side of the fairway. So if you push it, you're in the water. So I'm like, hey Jeremy, what do you like here? Like, whatever you like. I'm like, so what's the situation? Do I need a par? Do I need an eagle? Do I need a birdie? Just need to hit a good shot. So he wouldn't tell me. That's the funny thing. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hit a driver. He's like, I love that. I love that club. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, we need a birdie. So I hit a good drive, and then the pin was all the way in the back right. And this pin, even though from you're like 90 yards, it looks like it's in the water. And I remember hit this like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was being an idiot, like usually. But I hit this like Arnold Palmer finished wedge. Like I don't know why I'm like cut spinning a wedge from 90 yards, and it lands and like literally spins down sideways to maybe 5 feet. And so I get to the putt, and I kind of noticed behind the green a couple of my teammates, and then parents, and then I think our assistant athletic director was there. Everyone's got the phone out, like, and everyone's videoing, and I'm thinking, oh man, like obviously we are probably tied right now. So I make this putt. I was so nervous, and I make this putt, and they're all going crazy, and I'm thinking, okay, like we needed that, and come to find out that John had already put the ball in the fairway behind us, and so obviously he's like 90 yards. So this hole is very tough to make birdie, but it's a guaranteed par because you're just going to hit it 20 feet left to the pin and then just putt down, right? But it's tough to make a birdie. So I make this birdie, and he's sitting back there 80 yards in the fairway, and I come off the green. We find out that we just went up one shot, and the other team was already done. So it was just cool to know that putt was, kind of knowing standing over the ball that this could be a crucial putt, not knowing exactly what it was for, and to make it. I think that like I've always reflected on that moment when I needed to make a putt because it was the first time that it's different when you have a putt and it's just for you.
Right.
Like it's just I'm trying to win a tournament, or I'm trying to get to this or whatever. But when you have like other people that are watching, and other people that have like their hopes resting on you, it feels different. And I think that's just a really, really awesome story because um, it's helped me from that point on. Every time I have a big moment, I'm like, well, yeah, this might be a bigger moment, but in that moment, more people were counting on me to do something. So that's obviously an awesome story. And then that was to make our third national championship in a row. So we did not make it this year, but we did make three in a row, which is pretty cool. I think maybe only 9 or 10 of the teams did that. So it's just cool to be, not a UNC or not a Pepperdine or not a Texas, and to do that is pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about you talking about putting there for a second, but a drive that you hit, Mickey Demorat, who went to Liberty as well, a friend of
Yeah.
mine, he mentioned he wanted you to tell the story of outdriving Jacob Mast by 50 yards at the Virginia Open. Tell us about that.
I don't know how that intel got leaked, but so we were on playing a practice round. It was me, Jacob Mass, Ian McConnell, and Brett Reed. So Brett's a current teammate of mine right now. He's playing in the USM as well. So he's a great golfer. Plays at Liberty right now. He's a junior. He's going to be a junior. I'm playing with Brett. Jacob is a Liberty alum, and he works at Poplar Grove. He's the head pro. And then Ian works at, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. I'm not going to say, but he's in Northern Virginia as a golf pro. So Ian's a really good golfer, but he doesn't hit it that far. I'll be honest. Ian, I'm sorry. And Jacob's not a short hitter. He likes to think he's a long hitter. I don't really think he is, but he likes to think he's a long hitter. We're on 18 at Independence, and they moved the tee back to play on a par three box. So 18 is probably usually like 400 there, and it's like a 450 type of hole. So it's like 450, and so Ian hits one down the fairway. Brett hits. Jacob kind of like hits one. He thinks he's hit it good. He's like, "Oh man, that was a good one." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna really hit this one." And I told the guys that was the best draw I've ever hit on a golf course. I mean, I've hit better on a driving range where I've hit it like that hard and that solid, but that was the most solid drive with speed I've ever hit on a golf course. So I'm like, God, I just crushed that ball. So we get up there and I'm like 89 yards ahead of Ian and I'm 50 yards past Jacob and we got it on video. So I had like 87 yards left on this 450 hole and it is not downhill. It is, if anything, it's uphill. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I got a big bounce too, or if it just, because I don't got 365 in me. I've maybe got on a max effort, maybe 340. I don't have 365, so I don't know how it went that far. But that was I told the guys that was the best shot I've ever hit on a golf course because Jacob, it was great. Jacob said he crushed that one, and then I was 48, 49 yards behind, so that was pretty satisfying.
No, that's crazy. A huge, huge drive, huge story. Just for fans of golf that may see you in the U.S. Amateur next week, what's a sample of like the kind of music you like to listen to? Just get an idea. I know you're a Virginia guy from Huddleston, so are you country music guy, or what's the go-to?
Yeah, I'm a country music guy. Like in terms of my favorite genre, that's not all I listen to, but if I had to just pick one type of music to be going, that would be it. Uh, because the funny thing is, country music, you either like it or you don't. Because almost every song is either about a girl or a truck or beer. So all the songs kind of run together. So if you don't like that beat, you're not gonna like it. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, if you don't like country music right away, you're never gonna like it. So yeah, and I like Morgan Wallen. I like Bailey Zimmerman, Cody Johnson, Zach Bryan. So and I like old country too, but those I like those guys. And then, but I would say this maybe is a controversial one. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but my favorite artist is Kanye West. Like he's my favorite artist. If I had to listen to one singer, that would be it. Like I would just listen to his music. Um, I just think that even though there's been some controversy as of late with him, and I don't know. Apparently, he disappeared for a month and he came back, and people are saying it's not really him. So I don't know what's going on there, but I just know that the music's there from 10 years ago and it's good. So that might be a different thing than country, but he's my favorite artist. But country is my favorite genre for sure.
Definitely. Just wrapping up here. You got your senior year coming up. What are you looking forward to most about that? I know that Coach Thomas has been a big mentor for you in the past, but how much are you looking forward to senior year?
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think we've got some really good tournaments lined up, and I think we're starting at TPC San Antonio, which will be a great tournament. Um, that's where I'm pretty sure they play the Valero, so it'll be a great tournament. And we're going back to Hawaii in the semester, so that was an awesome experience last year. Yeah, and I just think we have some new guys. I'm pretty sure we have three freshmen coming in, and we obviously lost John and Connor who have been there. Those are kind of like those are the last two guys that weren't new to me. Like I was always with them. So everyone on this team now will have not. There's not a single person on the team now that was there when I got there. So that's new, right? I'm like kind of an old guy for that in that regard. Because Austin Barban transferred in. So yeah, I just kind of it is interesting that no one is on the team when I arrived, and that's the first time I'll be able to say that. So it's a new challenge. We've got a lot of young guys. I'm just excited to see, you know, what they can do and what we can do. And I think last year, I'm just glad we were able to end with the conference championship win because that was the last time that group was together. I mean, we obviously played regionals and we didn't quite make it, but that was the last win we were able to get with that group. So yeah, just it's going to be challenging, and I'm excited. And I think that it's always exciting in college golf a little bit to be able to play new courses, but it's always exciting to go back to a course that you've played before. We have some regularly scheduled stops, and it's always cool to go back to tournaments that you've played in the past and just to number one, obviously see familiar faces, but number two, to play a course that you've played before is a great way to see how you're improving as a player. Um, that's probably honestly one of my favorite things about it is that you can go back to the Gator, or you can go back to TPC Myrtle, or you can go back to Sawgrass, some of our regularly scheduled stops, and then you can see, okay, last year this is how I thought about my game and this is how I performed, and then this year, like, wow, maybe all of a sudden on this hole where I was hitting a 3 iron, I feel good enough to hit a driver, and those things are cool to just be able to see growth in that way where no one else can see it, but it's there. Um, kind of I actually really like that about college golf, about that you can just really, see that growth in yourself.
And you're the grizzled old veteran, as you talked about there. That'll be an interesting dynamic, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I act like an 18-year-old, and sometimes I act like an old man. So I just hope the new guys get on my good side.
Well, cool. Isaac Simmons, thanks for taking some time here on Beyond the Clubhouse, and good luck at the U.S. Amateur.
All right, thanks, Garrett. Appreciate it.